Why is it that experiences of trauma can sometimes play out years and years and years later, and we don't even recall the initial incident, or if we do, it doesn't seem to match what's going on now? Now, I had an incident recently with a friend of mine who I've been coaching and working with for a few years now. And she sent me an SOS one evening this week. And she has given me complete full permission to share this experience with all of you, because she really wants you to have this insight too. And what had happened was she'd been going down the street, and suddenly, out of nowhere, someone had lunged at her and grabbed at her, and they were someone who was living on the streets and had been drinking heavily, and she just found the whole incident deeply, profoundly terrifying. Now, what happened afterwards was that some of her beautiful friends were very confused by her response. So let me walk you through exactly what happened. So I got this SOS message from her saying that she'd had this incident. She just described it very, very briefly, but she said, I just don't feel okay. So I said to her, okay, let's do a session right now, because I could just sense that she wasn't able to think any of this through, because she really was in a terror trauma response to what had happened, even though the person concerned hadn't laid a finger on her. She described it as, first she just fled and she ran, and then when she got somewhere, she just went into a complete frozen state, and somehow she managed to get home, but she'd not been able to come out of this big frozen reactive state. And so that's why she messaged me. And her friends had been checking in with her. They'd been, messaging her and seeing if she wanted to talk. But in reality, she couldn't talk. She was so frozen that she was struggling to breathe. So we got on a video call together, and intuitively, and also just by looking at her, I could see this is not a talking situation. This person is completely stuck in. And she'd said, I just literally can't breathe. I can't get any air in my body. It happened several hours earlier on. And, without needing to ask her any questions, it was pretty simple and easy to see that she had had something much, much deeper triggered by this near miss with this stranger in the street. So what did we do? Well, she's been working with me for a little while now, quite a while now, using the technique which I use at the core of my coaching, which is called quantum energy coaching. And it's very body-based, it's very below intelligent mind-based, which is perfect when you're working with trauma. Because with trauma, it's not an intellectual thing that we need to process in the way that is believed. It's actually very much in your body and very much in the emotional, relational part of your brain and your survival brain. So, perfect. I just managed to settle her enough, and we use the technique. And these are a couple of the things that she's allowed me to share with you that we installed. So this process, we go past the intelligent brain, because, talking about and rationalizing, oh, that was terrible, and how did you feel? And, but it's great, isn't it? Let's find something positive about the fact that, you escaped and all that. It's not going to help someone who's stuck in their nervous system in complete and very shut down and very withdrawn. Now that is a perfect, brilliant survival state, but it's horrible to be like that for a prolonged period, which is where my friend was stuck. So the first thing we did was we put in a new belief to instruct her nervous system. So your nervous system is the background system that's going to put you into fight or flight, or completely shut you down so you don't really feel anything, or enable you to be either warm and friendly or over friendly as a befriending mechanism. And hers at this moment was stuck in shut down, feel nothing. It's a bit like being behind a very thick pane of glass, and it's very uncomfortable. So the first thing we installed was my autonomic nervous system is in balance, regulation, and homeostasis, safely releasing my trauma and restoring my inner peace and safety. So because we'd use this technique to enable her subconscious mind to just receive this, it just popped in. And that was the beginning of the process of reassuring her body systems, we're okay, we're okay, we're okay. And then another thing that we installed was I allow my body to safely and gently let go of my freeze response. Now, there were a few other things that we put in as well. And as we were doing it, I could see her whole physical presence change. And she began to become more present with me. She said, "Oh, I can breathe." Literally, you could just see all the tightness and shock just dissipate out of her whole being. And we ended the call really quickly once we'd been through the process, because then she was exhausted and she needed to sleep. And I can report that since then she's been doing really, really well. But what I know from other work I've done many years ago before I had this amazing technique was that, if I just tried to talk to her and reassure her, yeah, it might have felt good, but she probably wouldn't have been able to really engage with it. And this big physical response would not have left her system. So I hope that is helpful and interesting for you to know about. And I'm deeply, deeply grateful to my friend for allowing me to share this with you. It's just an illustration of how something in our past can collide with something that happens in the present, and our whole system will go back into whatever the survival response was then. And that is often a freeze response, particularly if it was something from our childhood when we couldn't escape. And getting stuck in that freeze response is horrible. It really is. So all is well, and yes, we both hope that this is of real use to you in your journey and your understanding. Jane Evans, the Lasting Life Change Coach.